A Path to Strength. A girl's journey to healing in the quiet town of Maplewood. 16-year-old Sophie lived with her mother Clara and her stepfather, Derek. Sophie's world had shifted dramatically when her father passed away when she was 8. He was a gentle man who filled her evenings with piano melodies and taught her to plant flowers in their garden. Those memories were her haven, but they felt like distant stars now, overshadowed by a home that no longer felt safe. After her father's death, Clara married Derek. At first, Derek was reserved, blending into the background of their lives. But over time, his demeanor changed. He grew loud, his temper flaring over small things: spilled milk, a misplaced shoe. He'd smash dishes and glare at Sophie in a way that made her skin crawl. One night, as Sophie sat in her room arranging pressed flowers in a scrapbook, Derek entered and closed the door behind him. His presence filled the room with dread. Sophie's heart pounded as she fled to her mother. "Mom, please," Sophie begged, tears streaming down her face. "Derek scares me. He's not okay." But Clara's eyes turned icy. "Stop it, Sophie," she snapped. "Derek's your stepfather. Don't make up stories." Sophie's world shattered. Her mother, her protector, had chosen Derek's side. The next day at school, Sophie was a shadow of herself, unable to muster a smile. Her biology teacher, Miss Rivera, noticed her silence. "Sophie, are you all right?" she asked, her voice kind. Sophie stared at her desk. "I'm fine," she whispered, but inside, she was breaking. That night, Sophie curled up in bed, tears soaking her pillow. She felt abandoned, unwanted even by her own mother. The weight of loneliness pressed against her chest, making it hard to breathe. The following morning, a woman in a gray coat arrived at their house. She introduced herself as Miss Ellis from Social Services. "Sophie," she said gently, "you deserve to be safe. You're coming with me." Sophie's mind reeled. She looked at her mother, who stood silent, avoiding her gaze. "Pack what you need," Miss Ellis instructed. Sophie packed a small bag with her scrapbook, a locket with her father's photo, and her favorite stuffed rabbit. As she left, Clara didn't speak or reach for her. "Where are we going?" Sophie asked in the car. Miss Ellis's smile was warm. "Somewhere safe." They pulled up to a large stone building behind a wrought iron gate. "This is your new home for now," Miss Ellis said. The building loomed, cold and unfamiliar, with tall windows and a heavy door. Inside, the hall smelled of bleach and old paper. Girls passed by, their eyes carrying the same quiet pain Sophie felt. Some were younger, some older, but all seemed to share her story. Miss Ellis led Sophie to a small room with 2 beds, a desk, and a narrow window. A girl sat on one bed, sketching in a notebook. "This is your roommate, Ava," Miss Ellis said before leaving. Ava looked up, her curly red hair framing her face, her eyes wary but soft. "Hi," Sophie said. Ava nodded. "Hey." Silence settled between them as Sophie sat on her bed, clutching her rabbit. After a moment, Ava spoke. "First time here?" Sophie nodded. "Yeah, you?" Ava shrugged. 2 weeks. Sophie hesitated, then asked, "Do you miss home?" Ava's gaze dropped. "Not really. It wasn't a good place." Sophie's voice was barely audible. "Mine wasn't either." In that shared moment, a thread of connection formed, not friendship yet, but a flicker of hope. That night, Sophie couldn't sleep. She missed her garden, her father's piano, even her mother, despite everything. As she shivered in the strange bed, Ava draped a blanket over her. "You're shaking," she said quietly. Sophie's eyes welled up. "Thanks," she whispered. Ava's small act of kindness felt like a lifeline, the first warmth Sophie had felt in ages. Weeks passed in the shelter. Sophie met other girls, each with their own burdens. There was Mia, who laughed easily but never mentioned her past. There was Zoe, reserved but gentle, who taught Sophie how to braid her hair. Some days, memories of Derek's anger and Clara's betrayal overwhelmed Sophie, leaving her hollow. One evening she confessed to Ava, "I feel so alone inside." Ava met her gaze. "I know, but you're not." In the shelter's tiny garden, where daisies grew among weeds, Sophie and Ava sat one afternoon. "Why do families let us down?" Sophie asked, her voice small. Ava didn't answer, just took Sophie's hand. That simple gesture eased her pain, reminding her she wasn't alone. The girls in the shelter became a makeshift family, sharing stories, tears, and quiet moments of joy. One morning, Miss Rivera visited the shelter. Sophie's heart lifted at the sight of her. "Sophie," Miss Rivera said, pulling her into a hug that smelled of lavender and chalk. "Are you okay here?" Sophie nodded. "It's not home, but it's safe." Miss Rivera handed her a green journal. "For your thoughts," she said. "Write your heart out." That night, Sophie opened the journal and wrote, "Dear Dad, I miss you. Your music made everything better. Mom chose Derek, and he scared me. I told her, but she didn't believe me. Now I'm in a new place. It's strange, but there's a girl named Ava who's kind. I'm sad some days, but I'm learning to be brave. You told me to always grow, like our flowers. I'm trying. I'll make you proud. Love, Sophie." She hugged the journal, feeling her father's love in her heart. For the first time in months, she slept without tears. Months later, on a rainy morning, a worker called Sophie to the front room. "Someone's here for you," she said. Sophie's heart stopped. "Who?" she asked. "Your mother." Sophie's hands trembled as she walked to the room. Clara stood there, in a worn blue coat, her face weary. "Sophie," she said softly. Sophie stayed silent. Clara stepped closer. "I'm so sorry," she said, her voice breaking. "I didn't listen. I was wrong." Sophie's chest tightened. "You didn't believe me," she said, tears rising. "You let him scare me." Clara's eyes filled with tears. "I know, I was afraid, and I failed you." She reached out. "Can you forgive me?" Sophie's heart churned with anger, hurt, and longing. "I don't know," she said finally. "Not today." Clara nodded, tears falling. "I understand. I just want you to know I love you." She left, and Sophie stood still, feeling a small crack in her pain. Not forgiveness, but a space for healing. Spring bloomed in Maplewood, painting the shelter's garden with color. Sophie walked there daily, sketching flowers and feeling the sun on her face. She was different now, stronger, unafraid to speak or feel. One afternoon, Ava sat beside her on a bench. "You seem happy," Ava said. Sophie smiled. I know who I am now." She opened her journal and showed Ava a new entry. "Dear Sophie, you are not broken. You are not unwanted. You are brave, kind, and strong. Your heart is like a garden, it will bloom again. You are enough. Love, Sophie." Ava hugged her. "That's beautiful." Sophie looked at the sky, where a sparrow danced in the breeze. She didn't know if she'd leave the shelter or find a new home. But she had something precious: herself, her voice, her strength. And she would never be silent again. If this story moved you, please like, subscribe, and share to spread its message of resilience and hope. Stay tuned for more stories that inspire courage and healing. Keep growing, keep shining, and never stop believing in yourself.